Welcome to this week's Who's the Champ? I'm your host, Chris Helms. Earlier this week I had the opportunity to sit down with Dendra Penance and Kurtis Black, an independent wrestling duo, husband and wife, a valet and promoters who's driving force behind an alliance of wrestlers inspired by like the old school style of the National Wrestling Alliance, the NWA. It was such a great conversation, and I'm happy to bring it to you. But tonight, I'm going to bring you part one of that conversation. We'll find out where it all started for them. And we talk about a very special trip that means a lot to them both. So let's sit back now and let's look at a portion of the conversation. Take a look. Kurtis, me and you've been friends and known each other in the business for years. So let's go ahead and let's get started on where did it all begin for you? Where did you train at? Where did it all begin for you?
Okay, so for me, I actually was trained by the Barbarian and the Warlord here in Charlotte at, starting out.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just gotten done just doing MMA, and, did some training, up under them. And I decided to take a trip down to Myrtle Beach and just so happened to hit a mall that kind of like a warehouse or what have you. And inside there, it said that they sold MMA gear. And I just so happened to walk in there, and it was a massive warehouse about a football field long that had various different types of things in there, from a gym to a full court basketball, football field, soccer field, and then on one end of that particular area, it was a promotion, which was C4W. And I ended up finishing up my training under AC Collins, under the AIWF banner, and obviously Michael Mosley, and then Fantasia Karen Simpson. So I actually graduated with the class of Mason Miles, who right now currently wrestles for DPW, and then Wheeler Yuta. Of course, I know him by a whole totally different name. You may know him as maybe Alex Kai on the Indies back in the day, but he goes by Wheeler Yuta now. So I've actually, had, plenty of matches with those guys, trained with those guys. So it's nice to see where everybody has come, since really, God, in the last 16 years. So, yeah.
Wow. You talk about C4W and everything. As you were explaining everything, the first thing that popped in my head was Tommy Wildfire Rich. I know he took over after a while. When you were explaining the concept, I was like, is he about to bring up Tommy's name? But, I didn't know a lot about C4W and everything. I saw some people that went through it. And when I was talking about training and get into the business, that was one of the names that actually came up. And then as later on, you hear Bob Keller's name come out. And then now, Fuego now in Myrtle Beach doing it as well. Me and you, we met in Orangeburg, working for the Syrian Sheik and everything. And by that time, you've had a few years under your belt. Tell me about some of the places that you stopped at in your travels over the years.
Man, let's see. I've been to Gallatin, Tennessee, numerous occasions. I've been out to California. Haven't been to Texas yet.
Mm-hmm.
But then, when I'm looking at overseas, I've wrestled in the Bahamas for the Sidney Poitier Classic. I've been to Ponce and San Juan, Puerto Rico. I've been to Monterrey, Mexico, and recently my wife and I, we actually just got back from Ecuador.
Tell me about your trip to Ecuador. How was that?
Ecuador was
It was different. It's a very, very beautiful place.
Mm-hmm.
Or, it's
So
literally like the The center of the world is what they call it.
Yeah.
They're like right at the equator. Equator really does like split there, so you could be north or south.
Right.
Where we went was a city called Quito. Quito is the capital of Ecuador, and it sits between two mountain ranges, basically. So they're in a valley. They are known as the longest city in the world because of how they're placed. They also have a few monuments out there. One that really does it marks the center of the world where the equator is, and then they also have this beautiful Virgin Mary statue. And their claim is this is the only Virgin Mary statue that has wings on it, and that
Okay.
sits in the heart of Quito. So it's a very beautiful place. If I was going to try to compare it to anything, it reminded me a lot of San Francisco.
Ooh. Okay.
If anything,
Okay.
Yeah.
I
it's
think I know exactly the statue that you're talking about and everything. You've seen it in some like the Angels and Demons movie. I know exactly what you're talking about, the Virgin Mary statue. But you know, since you started, you know, we're talking about DJ. Tell me your introduction into the wrestling business.
okay. Before I came into the wrestling business, I'm an actress. I had
Okay.
been doing it for about a decade before I met Curtis. I met Curtis in 2020,
Yeah.
and we met on a movie set. I had a very minor role in it. He actually starred in the movie. It was called Pimp by Blood. You can actually find it on Amazon, if I'm not mistaken, Amazon Prime. But we talked a little bit. I told him that after I found out he was a wrestler, that I was very interested in becoming a ballet. I had an opportunity a year before I met him to try to train and be introduced into the business, but an injury sat me out for a little bit.
Right.
I'll say that. So by the time I was ready, I met Curtis. I told him I wanted to be a valet, and I'm guessing because he saw my acting range on set, he was like, "Okay, well, let's go ahead and try you out." He basically told me to come up with a name, come up with a moniker, and come up with a promo.
Mm-hmm.
The promo lasted for about 5 minutes. I'm very dramatic. But it ended up being a very, very interesting promo. So he was like, "Oh yeah, come on. I did a ballet anyways. That was great, and let's see how you do. With your first performance." I had maybe 2 weeks, about 2 weeks to prepare everything, a character, like the whole nine. I was like, "Oh, okay," but. He took me up under his wing, and I was introduced to a promotion called GPW. It's based out of Gastonia, North
Okay.
Carolina. So when I went out there, it was my first performance. Everybody loved me, and they thought I had a very, very interesting character. So that's how I got into the game.
Yeah.
Yes, it was about 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has to be. So let's talk about the character. Let's. When I first met you both, I would compare Curtis's character being pretty much a ultimate fighter, medieval fighter, something stepping straight out of a Street Fighter video game. Am I correct in your assumption, or where did the concept come up?
Okay, so by blood, I am part Greek. So naturally, I would gravitate towards my roots, and I've always had a thing for Greek mythology. So it was just one of those type of things that why change anything if it ain't broke? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I just basically stuck to the MMA and of course the wrestling aspect of what I picked up in training, and then I think really everything over time, it clicked with her.
Right.
When it came with D, it all really came together. I think it really came together. We were actually making our debut for Rapid Wrestling Federation,
Mhm.
Okay.
and I was in the heavyweight championship match with Rob Killjoy. So I know that I wanted something different, and it was like, I wanted to give a different feel. I was in a good place in my life at the time when I met her. So it was like, all right, well, let's really dive deep into it. So, I just went, all in, and it actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because really when that happened, everything else just it took off, because it finally clicked. I mean, I on the scene, for all these years, it was hit and miss, have my good run here, make a run there, to these particular type of places. But then it was just like with her, it clicked. And then after that, it was off to the races. And we never looked back after that. And everything has just been progressively getting better. Um, I can say with certainty, when it came down to Ecuador, it was a true honor, because I got selected out of a tournament, for a tournament, representing the U.S. down in Quito. It was myself, Renard Dubois, Christian Rayo, and Legic Chamberlain, out of Texas. So it was us, and then of course D. She was team captain. So we were like, all right, well, cool, And when we went down there, just to see how diverse, wrestling is down there, it was awe inspiring, to see different other individuals from various different countries that I would have never thought in my wildest dreams of being in the ring with. I mean, I've wrestled individuals from Ecuador, from Colombia, from what, Italy.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it was a great collab of individuals, people from Colombia, Trinidad. I mean, it was an amazing time. And the fans there, they make you feel something. It's a different type of feel. I mean, I don't knock American based wrestling, but
Hmm.
it's something about Latin American wrestling that it's a different kind of feel. It was something like the closest thing I can tell you was the same feeling I got when I went to Mexico. Mexico, it was just one of those type of things. Her and I, we had a match in Gatlin, Tennessee for the ASWA heavyweight championship against Renard Dubois. And that match, we did not know was actually being filmed and being broadcast out to the AIWF audience. Didn't know nothing about it. And apparently Matt Classic got a hold of it, and he reached out to some individuals down in Mexico, and they reached out to myself and Renata, and they were like, "Hey, do you all want to run it back one more time? This time in Monterey." And we were like, "Wait, what? Mexico? Are you kidding?" Yeah, all right, cool. And we were like, "Yeah, cool." And so him and I, we ran it back in Monterey, and we did not know that the facility that we wrestled for, the organization we wrestled for, they were like the NXT
Okay.
of AAA, of AAA. Um,
Okay.
and so it was just one of those type of things that when we went there, wow, this is intense because we are in a land nowhere close to our own. And, we're in front of thousands of people. I mean, I don't think I've been in front of a crowd bigger than, a couple hundred people, but standing in front
Mm-hmm.
of, a crowd of, 1,500 plus people was like, that was intimidating. Just for me,
Right.
that
For
was really
anyone, yeah.
intimidating. And him and I, we knocked it out of the ballpark, bro. Like, I'm not even gonna kid. Like, to get match of the night, complete foreigners and the celebration and things like that. It was awesome. But it didn't stop there because we didn't know that match got broadcasted in Canada, Uruguay, Ecuador, Colombia, and Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the promoters out in Ecuador reached out to Renard and I again, and we're like, "Hey, we got you all's match. We saw it in Mexico. Do you want to run it back for a third time?" Wow. Okay. So we were like, "Okay, so what are we doing?" And then they explained to us that it was a tournament, and we were going to represent the U.S., and they had other individuals from various other countries, and it was a time, bro. It was a really
Yeah.
good time to really be delved into Latin American culture like that, not just on a wrestling basis, but on a personal basis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of things changed. My wife and I, we actually found out that she was pregnant with our second child while we
That's
were down there.
awesome.
So that right there was a complete thing, man. That was a wow moment for us. So I mean, it pretty much changed a lot, for us. But you know, where you have your good, you also have your bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not know that being there, I broke my neck.
No, I didn't know that happened. Oh man, how
Yeah,
bad?
yeah. I don't. I somehow, in one of the matches, yeah, I broke my neck, and I went about a year with a broken neck and didn't know nothing about
Wow.
it. Yeah.
So
So,
you were talking a little bit about the crowds and everything, and in Ecuador and Latin America, and you said that no offense to the American audience, to believe it or not, it's absolutely the American audience would never understand that. They could see videos of wrestling in Japan where all the fans are just not sitting on their hands, but they're showing the respect to the wrestlers in there. And I've seen some of the Latin Americans from the Cologne days back in, Carlos Colon, and you've seen those crowds in Puerto Rico and just how rabid and fans are, everything that ECW fans aspire to be, being in Latin America, just like you said, is a different crowd. They saw it at Backlash, a couple years ago when Bad Bunny and Damian Priest went one-on-one. That's just a little bit of what the Latin America and Puerto Rican fans are actually doing. A lot of wrestlers go to Latin America and Puerto Rico and they get a little scared about those fans. Did you feel a little uneasy, either one of y'all being out in the crowd? Any experiences from it?
yeah,
A little.
yeah. It can be for me. It was Mexico. It was
Mm-hmm.
Mexico. Like I said, being in front of that crowd and how obviously, here in the States, we start off slow and then we pick up the pace, but in Latin America, because it's lucha libre, it's from start to finish, so it was being in front of a crowd where they were expecting it to go from 0 to 100 from opening bell to let's take you for a ride,
Mm-hmm.
and give you something that you aren't used to seeing. And so, Ray and I, we were in the middle of our match. We decided to just turn up the violence. dare I say, we turned up the violence just a little bit. So we went full on strong style.
Oh.
And the fans, they ate it up, bro. They ate it up. We By the time we were done, I know, we bruised each other up so bad that we were sore for days on end. Like sore. We went straight back to the hotels and we're like, yo, we're not moving for like the next 3 days. It was ice baths like left and right because like we literally, with all due respect, we beat the piss out of each other. But it was to take the fans for a ride, and that's what got match of the night. And we didn't have to do anything outlandish. We just had to be us, and that was
Believable.
the believable. And that was the thing. We were us because Ray and I, we are physical. We are legit physically, physical with each other. He's an amateur wrestler, so am I. He does MMA. I did MMA. So it's natural
Mm-hmm.
to gravitate to actually handle someone that's equally as aggressive as you are. So it was just natural. And the fans ate it up, because it was believable. We took them on the ride of, hey, listen, we are glad to be here. So let's match that energy that you all are expecting, but we're going to do it in a way that you all are not used to. And I don't think they were used to seeing two individuals punch each other in the face, and kick the living crap out of each other,
Yeah,
like they weren't
exactly.
used to that. So it was a lot of ooh and ugh, ow, and it was a lot of that. And it clicked. It clicked. I mean, how they did us was so it was so awesome that, I mean, I know him and I, we both, I can say, we shed tears in that ring, because when we left, it wasn't like when he beat me, they gave a standing ovation. And it was one of those standing ovations where it was just like, okay, it was that deafening silence where, silence, it spoke louder than words, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And to see that they stood up and just, in a loud uproar, it was one of those things where I was like, wow, this is amazing. And we left and we went to the locker room, and one of the wrestlers came to the back and was like, you all come here, and grabbed us literally by our arms, and we were like, okay, what do we do? What do we do? They were like, no, come with us. And they drugged us back through the entrance tunnel, and they pushed us into the ring. And to see those individuals just toss money, man. They were tossing coins, dollar
Wow.
bills, just rain, like literally raining money, down on us, man. That was one of those things. It was just like, wow, respect.
Oh man, wow. Talk about a feeling the love and respect from a fan base that's known to be rabid and crazy. Well, that this concludes Who's the Champ for tonight. But make sure to stop by tomorrow night for part two, where we answer, the big question: Curtis Black, are you a wrestler or a sports entertainer? So we'll find out tomorrow night. Until then, have a great night.